happy? Or... I don't have anything set. I just kind of... Ready? Go ahead. There. When people ask what I am, I think the term maker definitely applies because it's so random. I never know what I'm getting asked to build. It's just got to figure it out. Because when I first got started and it was just like, do you think you could do this? Well, I've heard, do you think you could do this so many times that now I know I can do it. I just have to have the time to do it. And little by little, I'm getting this shop more and more geared up to just come in and push play, which is great. So my name's Ryan Smith. I'm Smith Makes Online. I have a cabinet shop here. No, it's not a cabinet shop. See, I hate this. I have a wood shop here in Worcester, Ohio, and I also dabble in printmaking and whatever else comes through the door. I do a lot of tables, cabinets, posters, coasters. I do a lot of coasters online. Signage comes through a lot. I've done a ton of cutting boards, as everybody else has. It has a wood shop. I've done some build-ins, getting ready to do another set of build-ins soon for our house and for another house. You never know what the next order is going to be. Why do I get in the shop? If I had it my way, I wouldn't leave the shop. I don't know exactly what it is, but this is my space. I know where everything is for the most part. When I'm here, I can do whatever I want, whether I'm following specific guidelines for a job or if I get to just have the freedom to make whatever I want. With the printmaking, I had smaller press and that's fine, but once I got my Vandercook, I got really into the printmaking, like deep dive. And I get into a print, let's say it's a complicated print, I can lose like 3 days to it. And financially, it's not great. But for me, the challenge of getting it right is all I'm after. You can carve a block and it's fine, you got to carve it, but when you finally crank the wheel and see how it turns out, that's the moment where you're just like, okay. And then you crank out like 50 more. Yeah, that's what I love to do. Every time. Just waiting. Just 10 miles an hour. Think about your life. So I grew up in the Ohio Valley, which was close to like Wheeling, West Virginia. I say Wheeling because no one knows where any of the other towns are. So living in Worcester, it's pretty big farm country, but we're also on like the border of the Amish country, Holmes County, Ohio. So there are a lot of wood shops here, which puts me close to a pretty awesome lumber yard. I have no neighbors in 2 directions, which makes it nice for the shop. I don't have to worry about making too many people mad when I fire up a saw weird hours of the night or early morning. I have access to a lot of things that typically other areas I wouldn't know where to get material-wise. So I'm not forced to shop at the big box stores, if you will. All right, so we are in Charm, Ohio. This is Kime Lumber. This is my go-to spot for everything, from sheet goods to rough lumber, and they deliver to my shop. But when it comes to a project, I like to come and pick out my own lumber. Yeah, so we're just getting some lumber today and take it home. Day-to-day life, I wake up and once we get the kids out the door for school, whether I'm taking them or not, come home, make sure that my day job is finished. I handle all the bookwork for my wife's office. Once that's in the clear, then I'm in the clear. So I can come to the shop and whether it's for me or a client, I can just get started and until school's out, and then it's back to dad life. I have no training, as far as woodworking goes, other than just trial and error. I come from the school YouTube, and I didn't take shop class or anything like that. I don't know if I wish I rather had shop class, or if everything's played out the way it's supposed to. Like I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I feel like if I'd taken shop class, then maybe my life would be completely different maybe in a worse way. I don't know. Like if I had gotten into this stuff earlier, wouldn't have made some of the friends I've made and ended up where I'm at now. So I don't know what that alternative universe looks like, but I'm pretty happy where I'm at. So woodworking, the earliest thing I can really remember doing is back in high school when we were playing music, we made some very sketchy like pedal boards. And then I kind of took a break. I did some bookcases from like shopping at the big box store with like pin nails. And then when we got our first house, like everybody, a lot of people say, you know, stuff comes up, and it just became, well, let's try and figure it out. And about the same time that I quit my job, our daughter was little, I was home with her, and really fell into the YouTube woodworking community, learning, listening to podcasts, just soaking everything up, almost like I was back at school. With the printmaking, I was always aware of it. Like I'd been to Hatch Show in Nashville years ago. Once I realized those machines were available, sort of, it's like a needle in a haystack. The first press I found was my flywheel press, and it was 45 minutes from here. And I wanted a Vandercook, but that's all that I had, so that's what I learned. And that's why I got started into the coasters, and that gave me more than enough time to practice. So how I got my Vandercook. So Vandercook is a proof press. It's a larger format. Let's think of a poster, a small poster, but you can print small things. So a lot of times they would, let's say a newspaper would lay it out, the page for the day, and they would crank it, they would review it and make sure that there were no typos or anything like this. And once that was set, they would take it over to a machine that would mass produce. So the proof press is just check your stuff, make sure you're good before you mass produce and waste money. This one, the first one that I got, is from 1933. There was an online sale coming up. Talked with my wife, and I had a budget in mind of what I would be willing to spend, and my budget was not going to cover it. But I thought, well, we'll sit down for the sale anyway. And I had the auction going, and in my head, I'm trying to think, how will I recoup this money? So Jimmy DiResta has prints that he sells online, and I thought, well, I sort of know Jimmy, but maybe if I could crank out the posters for him, I could recoup a little bit of money, whether it was a few bucks a print or whatever. I don't know how many he sells. So I text him, and his response was a picture of a Vandercook in bad condition with a tarp over it, and said, just come take this one. I don't have time to mess with it. You know, lost for words. And I thought, what are you talking about? Because like finding one of these machines is rare, and let alone the person I randomly happened to text has one and he doesn't want it, and he's telling me to come get it for nothing. And so I sat and watched the auction, and sure enough, the prices went way high. And so I wasn't buying any of those. And so a few months later, I drove to New York, and that's how I got my first Vandercook. I wouldn't say that between woodworking and printmaking, I necessarily have a favorite. I mean, I can get lost in the printmaking, but financially it makes way more sense to be a woodworker, right? So if I'm making a big table or something, that's way more lucrative than batching out some prints for fun. So I consider myself a hobbyist printmaker, but I'm trying to get more and more advanced as I go. I'm trying to do multiple layer wood blocks to create more of a not a painting, but like a deeper picture with better imagery than just one black and white image. With the figuring things out, at some point I just started, and I'm not trying to brag on myself, but I just started kind of looking at things and trying to like deconstruct them and figure out how did they do that. With the tools, like trying to figure out how to restore a machine, it's just trial and error, staring at things, watching the mechanics. I'm not a mechanic. I come from a line of mechanics, so I think there's some of that in my blood. These are some glasses to put. Whoa! All right. So we have some glasses displays that I did for my wife's office. When COVID happened, we shut down, and when we shut down, this was my project. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 displays. Yeah, you got to keep your wife happy. So I guess the biggest crossover for me with the printmaking and woodworking has been making things for other woodworkers or makers, because I always wanted, like I grew up loving band posters. My room was covered in band posters, and then I had cold called some different management and never got a response, or I've done one band poster. And then at some point I realized like, oh, the woodworkers and the makers are my bands. So it's awesome to try and figure out something for them that suits, whether it's their imagery or like coming up with something on my own or tweaking something that they have. It was just kind of cool to realize like, oh, that's that's my band right there. Like if something else comes along and I get to do something for Modest Mouse, that'd be great. But for now, I'm happy to make stuff for other makers. Most recently, going back to my woodworking origins, like I was soaking up content from the Wood Whisperer. I was watching one of his videos and I realized he has an image with the saw blade in the firehouse that he's in now. I thought that would make a cool print. So I reached out to him and Nicole and they agreed it would be awesome. So just yesterday, I got to print a print for Mark and I'll be sending that down to him. Right before that, I just did one for Jason Hibbs, Bourbon Moth, did one for his blade. I did a print with Paul Jackman. I've done stuff for Jimmy. I just did one this week for Jimmy that is a 3-block layer print that I'm really happy with the way it came out. I'm trying to get more hand-drawn imagery into my prints, so that was a cool challenge with the ice pick. I drew the ice pick and then turned it into a vector and then turned it into a print. So that was a fun one. I first met Jimmy he was doing a mini maker fair in Pittsburgh. And since then, he obviously gave me the press, which I can't thank him enough for. But I was trying to think of, more ways to thank him for the press. And so I texted him and I said, hey, what if I make you some prints for Maker Camp? I'd never been to Maker Camp. I had no intention to go to Maker Camp. So what if I send you some prints? You can set them on a table or you can hand them out for the event. Like that would be kind of cool. And his response is, why don't you bring the press and be a demonstrator at the event? And so this will be year number 4 coming up. Maker Camp to me is just people getting to come and experience a wide variety of mediums that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So at Maker Camp, I will come up with a general print idea. It's not an official poster of Maker Camp, but it's the unofficial poster of Maker Camp for each year. I want to do something different, so I come up with an image and I get a few nods of approval from a few people, and then I just run it. And I don't know how many I run ahead of time. I have a stack ready to go for the event, and then during the event, I crank out posters, and people take them throughout the day. And I do other prints throughout the day just so people can come by and see how the press works. If they have questions, talk to people about how I got into it, 2, what the press does. But for me now, Maker Camp is more of a group of friends that I get to see once a year and hang out. I said in my post this year about Maker Camp that it felt the most comfortable I've been at Maker Camp yet. This was my 3rd year, but my internet friends get to come together at this place once a year, hang out and do what they love to do for people, whether they're demonstrators or just hanging out. It's great. So when it comes to designing a print, really I just kind of ruminate on it and let it stew in the back of my mind until something clicks. Whether it's any good or not, I don't know. If people want to send me some basic imagery, I feel like I know enough about graphic design to put together a good looking poster that conveys whatever message or product or whatever it says about the client themselves to make a good print. I've had some clunkers for sure, but you're gonna have clunkers with anything. Like my first tables were pocket screwed together and they're still standing, but they're, in my mind now, they're clunkers. Some of the biggest challenges for my shop, if a client knows what they want, but they don't know how to tell you what they want, that's a challenge. If they're just really loosey-goosey with, I need a table, well, we gotta consider some things: size, material, how it's going together, what do you want it to look like. I have some clients that don't care. It's a thing, they need to fill space, and that's what it is. As far as the printmaking challenges would be the fact that I'm colorblind. So if you've seen some of my prints that you're thinking something's off, then you're probably right. And if it comes to a custom color, I have to wait until my wife's home or someone that can tell me, hey, you're way off. I do Christmas characters in Christmas time, and I've done some and think I'm good, and then someone looks at it and say, that color is not right at all. And so it's back to the drawing board. I have a couple contacts at the lumberyard that are my go-to color coordinators, and they will mix up paint for me, and I love them for it because I'm no good. My advice for someone wanting to get into printmaking would be, you can start with just hand rubbing imagery. Like you can buy some linoleum blocks, they're cheap, and you can get a carving set that's cheap, you can get started, and then you can batch out some prints and see if it's anything you want to look, more into. The problem is finding equipment. If you can find a machine, whether it's a big flywheel press, or if you can find a tabletop press, that would be a great way to get started. The tabletop presses you can usually find like an antique shop for relatively cheap, depending on the condition they're in. And if they need a little work, like it's not a lot to figure out if you have the time to dabble and test things out. But I would say just get started. It's pretty easy, especially with the lino cuts. You can Amazon that stuff and get it and see if it's your thing. And if it is your thing, and you're gonna end up like me, then you're gonna start acquiring a lot of stuff really fast because it finds you. Getting into woodworking, I feel like is so easy these days. And it was probably just as easy as it was when I got started, but there's also way more information online now. Everyone seems to have a YouTube channel with woodworking stuff. So there are plenty of tips and tricks out there, tutorials, step-by-step guides on how to create this project, which is great. For me, I'm very much a visual learner. So YouTube for me was super awesome because if I can see somebody do something, then I'm like, okay, I got it. Like I'm not gonna read a book and figure out a project. I need to see it in action. And once you show me, let me go. Like, let me do my thing and I'll take it from there. One of my favorite projects was for the music festival that I help out with. We did a 10 or 12 foot horse. It had some really cool colors and it was up on its hind legs and it had a guy riding the horse holding a Telecaster out into the air. And years ago I did 8-foot letters for the festival, and I said, when I saw the image that the artist had come up with, I said to my buddy, I said, what if we made that horse like coming down on top of the letters? And his response was, well, how big is that going to be? And I said, it doesn't matter, I'm going to make it. And I liked making things larger than life. It's fun for me, and the CNC makes that possible because I can tile things and then go from there, and it's just like putting a puzzle together. But when it finally went up in the air and like stepping back, I had so many people tell me it was the best thing that I'd made, that they had seen as far as the music festival. So that was a fun one. One of the most memorable ones was years ago, and I got a text from a friend that said, so-and-so wants to talk to you about making some letters for an event. Would you be interested in cutting them? I said, yeah, that's fine. So they got a hold of me, and when it came time, I was at the lumberyard. I said, is there a budget in mind? I'm at the lumberyard now. If the money's there, I'll get the materials, we'll get started. And there was a hesitation, and they said, well, it's for Elton John. He was doing his farewell tour across the country, and he was coming through Cleveland, and my part was for his green room. So it was just a quick, easy job, but it was pretty cool to say that I got to make something for Elton John. When it comes to having the CNC in the shop, I will never not have a CNC in the shop. It's just, it makes things so convenient. And with my life, with my little kids, like time is money. So if I have projects that need to get out the door fast and the CNC can handle certain parts of that, I'm gonna let it do it so that I can free up my time to do other things. I feel like the debate about CNCs and lasers and 3D printers is past news. They're so common now. So when it comes to a CNC, I wouldn't go back on it at all. So we're in Columbus, Ohio. It's my buddy's space, Greg Dutton's studio. 2 years ago, built the desks here. Did the cabinetry in the back. There's some cabinets here. I made 2 desks for him, and I did a conference table back here too. I've known Greg forever, and it's always great to be able to work with your friends. The future of Smith Makes would be just looking forward to more builds, and also my own personal stuff would be great. I don't see stopping anytime soon. I have no plan, like this is where I want to be. Just look forward to keep reinvesting in the shop and just keep cranking out projects. I would say the maker community is super supportive. So if I ever have a question, like I have a handful of guys and gals that I can lean into and say, what would you do here? Do you have a minute to talk? And everyone is ready to talk, help you through things. And if you can't get a hold of anybody, just take to the internet and you're gonna find an answer. Also, having good family support is great because I have people that are, you know, if I'm busy, if my wife's busy, they can help with the kids. I have people that step up all the time. My wife's super supportive. She hasn't stopped me from doing any of this. You can see I have a lot of equipment. She hasn't pumped the brakes on anything. She might roll her eyes a few times, but yeah, she's been super supportive for all this. That's great. Okay, so we're in a private club here in Columbus, Ohio. I've done a lot of work here for my buddy Patrick. This was maybe the first job for the space, this live edge counter. I did these tables, these little short guys. I built the framework for these benches. I didn't do any of the upholstery work, but I had a local woman put those together for us. Spinning this way, I did the cabinets, getting ready to do some more cabinets. I did the sink cabinet and the AC covers. So that was a fun project, probably 2 years ago. So same space, different room. Did all these liquor lockers for Patrick. That was a big project. I don't know how many we have here, but it took a long time. But they turned out pretty good. Okay, same club, different room. Did these tables for Patrick. We got 4 of them here. And I think that wraps up my work here, but done quite a bit in this space and turned out really well. Inspiration. A lot of times if it's a job, then it's just being inspired to hit the nail on the head, you know, get it out the door the way it's supposed to be. When it comes to the art side, like printmaking, it's got to make me want to do it. Like if it's a job where I get to be a little more creative, then I'm going to love it more and I'm going to put more heart into the job. But also like with the woodworking stuff, like keep, you know, watching other people create and it's like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to try. So let's see if I can try and get it to that mark if it's a, you know, something I really look up to in the community, if someone's done something really awesome. Working with my hands is great because for years I was involved with case management and, you know, doing social work, and you would get done at the end of the day and be like, what did I do today? Where in the shop I can say, oh, it's right there, like I built that. And it's cool to look back and be like, oh yeah, I made that, that's cool. And then whether it's for me or someone else, and then also if it's a paying job, that's great. So you get to do what you love to do and you also get to make money doing it. Like who, you know, why not? But for me, I feel like I have to do something with my hands, and I'm not a fidgety person. At least I don't think. You'd have to ask my wife. But if I'm not in the shop for a long stretch of time, like I can't do it. There have been times on vacation where I'm just itching to get out. So a lot of times when we go on vacation, I take a wood block with me, or I'll take some lino blocks with me. And if I'm sitting out on the patio, like I'm content to just get a tan and work on a print at the same time. But I feel like it's a good creative outlet that I need in my life. I see myself working in this shop or another shop until I can't. My grandpa didn't really retire. I don't see myself not doing something. Whether, you know, maybe it's not making giant heavy tables anymore when I get older, but with the printmaking, like that doesn't take a whole lot, but it's still a good outlet. It takes good practice and procedure. So I don't see myself stopping anything ever, really, until they make me. You can cut it.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Maker Documentary Series. If you'd like to support more videos like this, I have super cool shirts available on callmemabie.com. Shirts with all your favorite makers' names on them, shirts with the classic Call Me Mabie logo, and all sorts of fun stuff. I appreciate all of you. So then the last question I ask is if there's anything.
I'm Banksy.